Yo guys, welcome back to On Track GP for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix and of course the review for that Grand Prix. We've seen Perez win the race, take home all the points apart from the fastest lap because Verstappen, he decided to get greedy. He was like, I'm taking that last lap. I'm joined by Sam and Joe. Guys, what did you make of that? I mean, it started off entertaining. It was a safety car. There were some, close moments, and then obviously it kind of filtered out towards the end, and actually all the teammates were basically all hugging each other to the end of the race, weren't they? Let's start with Perez, Sam. I mean, great win. I mean, he obviously lost it at the beginning, but redeemed himself and recovered. Yeah,
job done for him. Like, starting pole, we lost that going to turn one, but he quickly got it back, and then it was a pretty comfortable race afterwards. Like you said, it was exciting at the start, and I think unfortunately that Stroll safety car just sort of killed it a bit, really, in terms of the various battles we were seeing. Like, obviously Ferrari, we'll come on to later, got a bit done by that. But in terms of Red Bull, it's the perfect day, really. Having Max go from P15 up to P2, having both cars finish, having Perez get a win, and having the fastest lap as well. It's just like they couldn't have asked them all going into stay. And it was a really comfortable performance. Like, we saw Verstappen was just tearing through that field really at ease, really. Like, he got at least a few places within the first few laps, and that was that really. So yeah, not much more you could say than obviously very good performance for them. Ominous for the season to come. I know there's still a long way to go, but in this current form, it's not looking like anyone's going to get anywhere near, let alone beat them for the either championship. No,
I mean, we have to talk about driver of the day, don't we, Joe? Verstappen. Yeah. I know you as a Ferrari fan, you're thinking we had almost a victory lap yesterday in the qualifying. He finished 15th. It was like, oh wow, there might be some competition here. There might be some excitement. And then he just absolutely clears through the entire pack with plenty of the race to spare. And then they're actually talking about issues in the car towards the end, just to make it even worse for everybody else as they set fastest times. I'm not really too happy with this car. How do you feel as like a rival watching that? You're just thinking, wow, this is it.
Yeah, I think, no, honestly, fair play to Red Bull. They've done a great job today. It's funny you say about Max, getting greedy and going for that fastest lap. Is actually getting that fastest lap has made him, kept him at number one in the Drivers' Championship. He's on 44 and Perez is on 33. Yeah. And I think it's those little things that separate Max from the rest of the pack. He's thinking, oh, it's a good result for everyone, but I still want to be at the top. I want that fastest lap. I want to be at the top of the Drivers' Championship for the next 2 weeks going ahead into Australia. And that's just his mentality. And as a team, fair play. They did a stunning job today. Yeah.
And Perez has to continue to keep capitalising on any moment where Verstappen might be starting from that far back. And I'm not saying that he's in with a shot of a Drivers' Championship, because I do think Verstappen over the course of the season will clear him. But I do want to see competition. If this team are going to be that comfortable, let's have some sort of competitive environment within the team and have them race and have them go back and forth. So on to third, and shockingly, dramatically, wow, Alonso didn't get third. Crazy. We all thought he did. In Google, they thought he did. With the podium and everybody, kind of. It's Russell, 10 points deducted. Penalty. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I think it's exactly the same as Ocon on the first race, which is weird that it's happened to him. It was a case of someone was watching the car too soon. He's got a 10-second penalty, and that, unfortunately for Alonso, has pushed him down past Russell. I mean, not a lot of it was his fault. Obviously, that 5 seconds to begin with was his fault, but he's not the one telling the rear jack guy to get touched on the car before. So, it was, up until now, it was a great result for Alonso, and then that penalty. P4 is not the end of the world.
It's not the worst.
Yeah, I mean, it's
massive anti-climax. I feel like he's taken his old teammates.
You hate to see
from Bahrain almost. Same thing for Ocon. Same thing for Alonso.
You hate to see any kind of podium takeaway after the race. Like, that's just never a good look. But obviously, these things do happen. As to why it sort of happened this late, it seems, if we compare it to Ocon's penalty was almost immediate.
Instant. Yeah,
it must have been
really
not so
weird.
Not so obvious.
If I got my tinfoil hat on, I think that maybe Mercedes noticed it and sort of gave the FIA a bit of a nudge, saying, but that could be complete rubbish. But it was very surprising. Just a shame for Alonso, really, that he's missed out on that podium spot.
Great for George, though.
Yeah, George just gets it by default. Also, I was going to say that Mercedes were kind of in their own race today. They still were, I guess, with him and Hamilton. But I think Mercedes will take that, won't they? Obviously, Ferrari underperforming today. That's who they're battling with, along with Aston Martin for maybe second in constructors, with Red Bull obviously flying away. Yeah, Mercedes will take that result, won't they?
100%. Yeah, I mean, if you'd have offered Toto Wolff third and fifth, today, he'd have bitten your hand off. I mean, that is a fantastic result. They've been, all sorts of problems, Mercedes, this season, in-house and with the car. So that could be a really good platform for them to kick on with moving forward to Australia.
Does that add insult to injury for Hamilton now that George gets podium? Did he not get podium in Bahrain as well? Or was
no,
he didn't.
Podium, yeah. So I think Hamilton can't have too many complaints about that. He was comfortably behind Russell the whole time. There was a moment where it looked like he might overtake, but then I think he had to back off because he was on medium tires compared to Russell's hard, so he knew that they'd give up. But I think Russell deserved it. I mean, he did very well to qualify as high as he did and just sort of got the job done, really. Obviously, he's had a huge amount of luck that the Ferraris have had what's happened to them, and now we've heard that Alonso's got this penalty. But you can't take that away from Russell. He deserves to be on there.
100%, and he looks more comfortable in that W14 at the moment.
Big time.
From last season, W13, now this season as well in the 14, he looks like he's able to put some consistent performances together, and they're going to need that this season. Moving on to Ferrari, Joe. I mean,
not good.
Not good. I mean, Leclerc, considering where he started, not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with everything that happened with the safety car.
Yeah.
Unlucky, definitely, for both drivers, isn't it? And pitting in that fashion. Red Bull held out a bit longer.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, they capitalised. But Sainz, not encouraging, is it?
No.
It's not. He didn't get caught by his teammate and overlapped, but certainly not encouraging, not inspiring.
Leclerc did a really nice drive. Quick, made his way through the pack quickly enough. And, as you say, Red Bull just held their bottle a little bit longer, didn't bring the drivers into pit, gambling that there might be some sort of safety car, and that is exactly what happened. Lance Stroll, his car gives up on him, the safety car comes out, and unfortunately for the Ferraris, they've pitted just before and wasted so much time coming in under a normal conditions to pit, rather than I think it's 11 seconds quicker if you pit under a safety car, and they've been completely undercut by the Red Bulls, and Max hasn't even had to overtake them. He's just been able to do it in the pit. So I mean, really disappointing day for Ferrari.
Is that lack of experience by Ferrari again showing? I don't know. Is it just unlucky?
I don't know about what you think, Sam, but I think a lot of it's just luck, actually, really, depending on when you're going to pit.
Yeah.
And it worked out perfectly for Red Bull. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree that it was very unlucky. I'm surprised they pitted Sainz when they did, because obviously they pitted Leclerc. He started in the soft, so he was bound to pit around that time. But as to why they chose to pit Sainz when they did, it seemed a bit on the early side. But again, they weren't to know that a safety lap was essentially coming 1 or 2 laps later. So Ferrari often get battered for their strategy, which is fair enough, because most of the time they do shoot themselves in the foot. But I think
reliability was there today.
Yeah, I think on today's performance, there wasn't a huge amount they did wrong. Like, it's just bad timing. Like, they pitted when they did. They maybe wanted to go for the undercut, and it just didn't work out for them.
It's just so gut-wrenching in the end, because I mean, Sainz started in a solid position in the grid. Verstappen and Leclerc were so far back, and when you look at the race results, it's just insane the way it's all flipped for them. Doesn't make any sense almost.
Yeah. There is the asterisk with the DNF there, but Sainz, man, not a good day at the office for him at all, and that's now basically two races in a row we've been saying that. So he needs to change something. Yeah,
100%. Australia is an opportunity for him to make that up. Alpine again. Nothing on them today. I mean, they were so quiet. They were in their own world. There was no fighting between the two of them as well. Obviously, we expect a bit of competition between Ocon and Gasly as the season goes on. Maybe quite similar in ability, but good solid points to take home, isn't it?
I think that again, like we said, Mercedes, like, this is the best they could have hoped for. Like, they're not going to overtake the top 3, and they're obviously probably not going to overtake Aston Martin now. But considering where they were in Bahrain, that we had one driver who got 3 different penalties within about 5 minutes, and the other one who started at the back. Like, to have both drivers finish comfortably within the points, not have a very dramatic race, just get the job done. That's what you want. Like, I don't know where that puts them in the constructors, but at this point of the season, like, those amount of points will shove you quite a long way up. And it's just a good platform. They should be happy with what they've got today, even if it's not a huge amount of points.
Where the drama came, Joe, was Magnussen versus Tsunoda for that last place in 10th, for that last point. And I'm happy for Haas, because I feel like everybody's kind of warmed up to Haas, of course. But I'm sad for Tsunoda, because it's the second race in a row where he gets back-to-back 11th places, and we know we don't even need to hear the audio. Their swearing begins. As soon as he was overtaken, I knew that team radio was going to start going off with the asterisks. How do you feel about that one? Because it's good for Magnussen.
Yeah.
Great point for him, but Tsunoda unfortunate again.
I really feel for Tsunoda, actually. I think the Haas car is better than the AlphaTauri car. And so Tsunoda, 2 P11s. I mean, that is so tough. And it's a cruel sport because finishing P11 and fighting for 4 hours, let's call it, across these 2 races, fighting in P11 twice is the same as binning it in the wall on the first corner in 2 races. It's the same result. You don't get anything more for it. There's no, you don't get points for finishing a race. So I think it's really, really tough. But for him, positive signs. AlphaTauri will be happy with what he's doing. If they can just take it one step further, find a little bit more pace on a different track, and get him into the points, that'll be good for them. But I think he'll be gutted. Yeah,
no, I think he'll be definitely gutted on that one. Hulkenberg obviously down in 12th as well, just to be split by Tsunoda to 2 Hasses. I want to go right down to the bottom. Obviously, we went through the DNFs. We've got Stroll, we've got Albon as well, not making it. Bottas, we didn't even speak about Bottas once. What? Where did he? Because he got points in Bahrain. I'm actually shocked in myself. I'm seeing his name. And I'm like, oh yeah, he still drives. He still drives in the Alfa Romeo again. We don't speak about them. Whether they get points, we don't speak about them. When they're down here in 18th, we don't speak about them. We spoke about McLaren's, obviously Norris versus Piastri. Sargent was looking like he was going to have a strongish race, and then he kind of just fell away. What did you make of that bottom 5, 6? Did you expect what materialised in the end?
Probably not. I think obviously the big headline from that is McLaren again having obviously had 2 drivers finish at least. That's one bonus there. But when that's as much as you can hang your hat on, it's not been a good day. It's another bad race for them. Piastri had damage almost immediately. Norris must have had a problem early on because he pitted very early on.
Twice, yeah.
Yeah, and then he also pitted as the safety car was ending, which seemed like a bizarre choice.
Unbelievable strategy. Crazy strategy.
Yeah, there must be a reason behind it. But yeah, to finish where they did is not great. Going on to Alfa Romeo, it's hard to know where the Alfa car is in terms of pace because obviously they finished within the points in the first race and they just sort of looked quite a way off it this time round. So I mean, I think there was a problem with Bottas. He had an extra pit, I think, or he just didn't look as quick as he was in Bahrain. But yeah, not a great day for either of those two that I've mentioned. And yeah, it's obviously Nick De Vries down there as well, whose F1 career, aside from his Monza debut last year, hasn't got off to the best of starts currently. He's not looked that close to the points in either of the 2 races. I mean, when you compare that to Tsunoda, sort of battling for P10, that's the one thing you don't want as a driver, is your teammates doing much better than you are. So it's pressure on him even after 2 races. But yeah, looking at the bottom, it's McLaren that have had the biggest issues.
Sure. Shocking.
We're going to get on to flop of the day, I guess, who kind of shocked us the most. But on Norris in particular, really talented driver, fighting with Piastri for brownie points almost, because it's not literal points.
Yeah.
They're down there. He's in 17th with Sargent, with a lot of rookies. I mean, we speak a lot about Hamilton and his frustration in that Mercedes, but I mean, Norris, if the majority of the season goes this way, where he's fighting at the back of the grid, surely his position at McLaren is going to be up for question, because he's far too talented to be down here.
Yeah, I think the only thing you could say is sort of both races have been massively compromised by reliability. So I said that we didn't know how quick the Alfa is. We definitely don't know how quick the McLaren is. We have not got a good gauge. Obviously, Piastri put it into Q3 in the qualifying, so we don't really know how quick this McLaren is yet, because we've had 2 races where they've had massive problems and Norris shot down. But like you said, he's got a contract till 2025, and I think the longer this goes on, the more questions are going to be asked about whether he might move. Obviously, it's going to be very costly for whichever team wants to get him in at the end of this year, if that does happen. But
unless they do a driver swap like we saw.
Maybe. I don't think McLaren would go for that, though. Obviously, Norris is sort of the golden boy, really.
Some sort of compensation would have to be brought
if you think that Ricciardo got something about 19 million when he left his contract, so obviously Norris is going to be on a fair amount and it's going to cost a lot. But yeah, the more performances like this, especially when he's starting to see people like Russell, people like Verstappen, who are similar sort of ages, they're winning championships, they're winning races, they're getting podiums, and he's never won a race and he hasn't been on the podium for a long time now. So not a great day for McLaren or Norris.
No. Joe, who's your flop of the day, I guess, in this grid? This final results.
My favourite man, Carlos Sainz.
I thought you might say him.
Yeah, it really is. I said if he had got done by his teammate today, Charles Leclerc, that for me would have been very clear that they have a 1-2 at Ferrari. He managed to hold on to it, but it's not a good result. It's not a good result at all. You know, where does he finish in the end? 6th place
behind Hamilton.
Come on,
he was struggling. You know,
that's not strong. That not in a Ferrari that we know is a pretty quick car, particularly on a circuit that should have suited this Ferrari as well. We know again, you know, they had some unluck with the pitting, but that's not good enough for me. It didn't look like he was fighting.
Yeah,
didn't look like he could get past people today. And I think if Charles Leclerc, if the cars were inverted and Charles Leclerc was there, he probably would have got past those people. So for me, unfortunately, as much as I love him, Carlos Sainz flopped today.
What about you, Sam? I know when Hamilton overtook him, it was a different tyre choice that they were going with, different tyre strategy, but it feels like you've just got to make it work sometimes.
I'd say Sainz as well. I think of all the drivers, his was the only one whose was like solely performance based. Like we think about Norris, who's obviously had a bad race, but that was due to his car. Like
second
I think
pit stop,
every other driver you can sort of say it wasn't entirely their fault, but then Sainz at the start, he just got eaten up by Stroll, and like he looked slow, and he's looked slow in Bahrain. He's often talked a lot about how he wants to have a good start to the season, when he's not doing it. He didn't do it last year. He's not doing it this year. He's getting in this position where he wants to fight for a championship, but he's finding himself at such a
way off that.
Yeah, such a
fight
back
for a
foot.
championship.
He's so far off by race 5.
Fight for podiums.
So yeah, I think out of all the drivers, I think he was the only one whose performance really let him down.
It's going to be an interesting season. I said Carlos, I'm keeping an eye, because I really do believe that between him and Leclerc, I'd already believed there is a 1-2 there, to be honest, just by default in terms of the ability. But Sainz is quick. He's always been quick. You know, he came through the Red Bull system. I'm a bit surprised with the performance at the start of the season so far, but it's a very competitive field. I think the way that I kind of concluded from this race is that whatever midfield battle we usually talk about, it feels like that midfield battle has been taking itself to the front. Because there's 3 teams outside of Red Bull that are challenging and vying for that second place, and you know, you never know. Alpine, you never know. Alpine might respond as the season goes on and get quicker as well, and get bunch themselves in. They've got 2 talented drivers in Ocon and Gasly. There's no reason to think they won't take a lot of points away from these teams as well. Maybe not finish there, but it could be complicated. So it's going to be crazy this season. It really is. You might sweat in that jacket.
I already am, mate.
Final thoughts, Joe, on everything. Anything that you want to highlight that I guess we haven't maybe mentioned?
I think the main takeaway is just, again, Red Bull dominance. Absolute. You can't take anything away from them. They started on pole. They won from pole, and their other driver came back from 13th to second, 15th, excuse me, to second, taking 13 places on the way.
And they had issues. That wasn't even their perfect car.
Issues. Of course, they just like to make it a bit more dramatic, I think. But no, unbelievable. Fair play.
Yeah, they just want to make it more realistic, I think, for the other teams. Oh, we have issues. Okay, so it's not
things
all,
might go wrong.
Not all hope is lost. Sam, what about you? What's your highlight?
I think same as Joe said. Job done for Red Bull. Like obviously Alonso is not going to be happy with the way it turned out. I think we're seeing a lot of the same storylines that came out of Bahrain. So Red Bull doing well, McLaren not doing well. Like Alpine doing okay. Like it's just sort of similar to that. Whether we get a difference in Melbourne, we'll see. But that's 2 weeks away. So I think we'll have Melbourne, and then obviously there's another huge break. A lot of teams have new upgrades, new developments. So maybe we'll see a bit more difference there. But yeah, this is just sort of continuation from the first race. I feel really. Yeah, my takeaway is different. I'm going to go with Tsunoda. Keep your head in the game. Keep your head in the game, even if you get taken over. By Magnussen. Started blurting out all sorts of words that couldn't be shown on screen, and I feel like maybe a little bit of head loss, and maybe couldn't recover the place back. I don't know what tyre he was on at the time, but I feel like when he gets angry, he just loses all composure, and then he can't even go back, and maybe recover the position. So keep your head. The points coming soon. Thank you to Sam. Thank you to Joe. It's been a great watch along and great review now as well. We'll be back for Australia, of course, and loads of content in between. Melbourne. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very weird without Daniel Ricciardo.
Oh man.
Very weird, but it's an early start. I'm sure everybody will get over it, and I'm sure he'll be there. I mean, he's
and Piastri's Australian as well.
Yes, so exactly. So we've had a replacement.
He'll be the poster boy this year. Yeah.
So hopefully a top 10 finish for Piastri. Guys, make sure you subscribe, smash up the likes, subscribe on Track GP, and I'll see you guys next time. In a bit, people. Peace.